I'm Harley Morenstein, professional amateur and creator of Nothing Significant. Now, automobiles have had a major impact on this world since 1886 when Carl Benz and Gottlieb Daimler created the first automobiles. But some of these automobiles are more important than others. Today on the Car and Driver Rundown, we're going to pay tribute to some of the most significant cars of all time. Well, the first car on our list is the Oldsmobile Toronado. And you may be thinking, what could be special about the Toronado? Before 1966, a number of European car companies were using front-wheel drive. But the Toronado was the first front-wheel drive car from one of the big three American manufacturers. It was also the biggest and most powerful front-drive car ever built, at least in '66. Now the majority of cars in America are front-wheel drive. Thanks a lot, Toronado. No, seriously, thanks. I know that didn't sound sincere, but thank you.
The old Toronado was GM in its absolute finest. It's a large car, but brilliantly crafted and shaped. The technology was the largest and most powerful front-drive car ever created. And it had achievements then like a freedom from torque steer that makers are still trying to catch up with today.
The '66 Toronado was so significant because it was a front-wheel drive car. It was the first front-wheel drive American car since the Accord of the late '30s. The Toronado had what was called a unitized power package that had the engine and transmission package in the front. And even though the Toronado was an upscale, luxury, personal coupe, it really created the format for the modern mid-size sedan. We wouldn't have Accords, Sonatas, Malibus being front-wheel drive if it was not for the Toronado.
The next car on the list is the 1955 classic, the Citroen DS. This car was considered years ahead of its time thanks to its advanced suspension and braking, as well as its wind-cheating aerodynamics. So much so that it still affects how cars are built today. All in all, I think this is a pretty sexy car. It's classy and I want to be inside of it. I want to slide into it real slow.
The Citroen DS is one of the most significant cars because it proves that companies can take huge chances on advances and create something completely unusual, completely absurd in some ways, and it be a fantastic thing. That car was on the market for 20 years, largely unchanged.
It was a low-power front driver that was just packed to the gills with technology such as hydraulic everything. Hydraulics ran the brakes, the steering, the suspension.
The Citroen was more like a plane than it was like a car. It had a really advanced suspension. It was hugely advanced aerodynamically. It was a perfect balance of ride and handling, and it was just beautifully executed all the way through. It's still ahead of its time in many, many ways.
A car doesn't have to be made for the mass market for it to be influential. The next car on the list is the Lamborghini Miura. The Lamborghini Miura was about as exclusive as it gets. The first supercar as we've come to know it. A V12-powered, mid-engine, hyper-capable, visually stunning machine. Every supercar since has been trying to capture the essence that is the Miura. But that, my friend, is lightning in a bottle.
Miura defined the modern supercar in a way that nothing before it had. Outrageousness, low, mid-engine, uncomfortable, hot, evil handling, beautiful, gorgeous Gandini styling. It's one of a kind.
The first big mid-engine sports car that, ushered in that sort of idea about sports car design.
It was a mid-engined supercar, and the Miura did that first for the road. The advantage of having the engine placed in the middle is you have what is called a low polar moment of inertia, meaning the car is more apt to turn.
It was a must-have car at a time when Ferraris were kind of stodgy and behind the times technologically.
You may take this next car for granted because they're all over the place today. But in 1990, when Ford released the Explorer, it changed the way we saw SUVs and made them the car of choice for people looking for something with utility and all-weather capability, as well as a sporting image. See you later, minivan, you goofy.
It was born in a time when there were two categories of SUVs. There were big ones and little ones. The Explorer spanned that gap. It was narrow but long, and it was a very simple but clear and significant breakthrough.
It was almost on everybody's shopping list. It was one of those vehicles that was absolutely utilitarian, but it also had a romance to it. It sort of replaced the station wagon as the American frontier vehicle.
The Ford Explorer is more responsible for the SUV craze of the late 90s and early 2000s than any other vehicle.
Well, the Ford Explorer was the first SUV that ever really caught on in huge numbers, and it created a market for selling trucks to people that would have never considered driving a truck, because it wasn't a truck, it was a truck with rear seats.
Some people want it all. They want a fast, good-looking, practical car, and on top of all that, they want it cheap. Those people are greedy. But all the way back in 1976, Volkswagen came up with the perfect solution to it with the GTI. And ever since it hit America in 1983, people were all over that GTI goodness.
The Volkswagen GTI, quite simply, popularized the hot hatch phenomenon, and it allied performance to hatchback utility. The thing was as practical as it was fun. It was really the first to celebrate small front-wheel drive performance in a big way.
The GTI brought style to a segment of cars that had absolutely none before it existed. And I think style counts for as much as anything when it comes to cars.
What the GTI did was say you can be relatively slow, but fun, precise, and affordable, as well as practical, and it could still be a fun package.
It's hard to put together any definitive list without including the Porsche 911. It's probably the most recognizable and best-known sports car ever, which is part of the reason why it's on this list. But the 911 has had a major influence since it first hit showrooms in 1964, where it sold for $6,500, which was big-time boss baller money for back then.
The Porsche 911 was really the first significant Porsche. It wasn't the first Porsche, but it was a breakthrough car with a classic envelope, a six-cylinder engine hanging out the back, and enough handling and performance, prestige, quality, all those things required to make it very, very desirable. So it's an icon and a much-loved car by enthusiasts and car and driver editors alike.
The 911 has remained fun to drive at 30 miles an hour, with steering that talks to you, with a great mechanical feel to the chassis, and just a tremendously strong line of communication between the car and the driver.
Now here's a machine I wouldn't mind having sex with, the Prius. First took the streets in Japan in 1997, but when Toyota released the 2000 Prius hybrid to the world, it changed the way we looked at automobiles today, making the hybrid a bona fide reality on the road, giving millions of drivers something they were craving, a personal sense of superiority.
The Toyota Prius is really the economy car for the 21st century. It combined a small, compact car with conventional gasoline power plus electricity.
The Toyota Prius really represents the mainstreaming of hybrids. It wasn't the first, but it was the one that really did big volume. Rich people were buying this $20,000 car because of what it said about them.
The Prius has energized a group of people who don't like cars into liking cars. That alone gives it reason to be on the list.
The next member of the list is a two-for-one deal. The Dodge Caravan and the Plymouth Voyager were essentially the same car, but that was the first true minivan. It replaced the station wagon as a definitive family transportation device and changed suburbia forever. It even gave birth to a whole new breed of people that I am fantasizing about right now as I speak, the soccer mom.
The Dodge Caravan and Plymouth Voyager invented the minivan.
They took the van out of the realm of the swinger and the plumber and gave it to the mom.
It's a tall front-wheel drive station wagon, except that it had these doors that slid open on the sides, and those doors were enough to kill the station wagon.
It was affordable, reasonably fuel efficient, but it had all that room inside is really what made it very desirable to people.
The minivan has a sort of counterintuitive sexiness. There was a study that came out a few years ago that said women weren't attracted to sports cars, they were attracted to cars that connoted stability. What is more stable than a minivan?
The next car on the list is one that actually does seem to get its fair share of the glory, and for good reason. Ford was not able to get its act together until midway through the production year of 1964, which is why this car is often referred to as the 1964 and a half Mustang. The Mustang was the first cool and sexy car that was in reach of the middle class. Factoid, Ford sold 22,000 of them the first day they went on sale.
1964 and a half Mustang, best half-year model car ever. The truth of the matter is the 64 Mustang was one of those first breakthrough products that did something really different, and the marketing made the car a success.
The 64.5 Mustang was really the first instance of youth marketing that said, here's a car for young people. This isn't your parents' car. This is a car for you to go out and have fun with.
The original Mustang started a whole segment. It was kind of a rolling fashion statement. It didn't have a lot of performance in the beginning, but it had more style than anybody needed. And it took other makers quite some time to catch up.
The key to the Mustang's popularity has always been its wide appeal.
The next car on our list isn't just an icon of British automotive ingenuity. The 1959 Mini is the standard for which all other small car makers now strive. It was such a great combination of design and technology that over 5.3 million were sold, making it the most popular British car of all time. If you lined all those up, it would be over 10,000 miles long. Or 17 Chevy Impalas.
The 59 Mini was so significant because Sir Alec Isagonis, the engineer behind it, he wanted to create a car that was very, very safe and excelled at accident avoidance. But what made it so good at accident avoidance made it really great handling little car. The thing was just mind-blowingly cool.
The breakthrough was how the engine and powertrain were packed in a little corner of the car. It had very small wheels and tires, and something like 98% of its volume was very useful space.
The Mini reinvented subcompact cars. It set a certain arrangement of parts that is still with us today that you can't really get away from. Ultimately, you end up with something very light, does not need a lot of power, does not need a lot of tire, does not cost a lot, but is a great deal of fun.
Making an appearance on the rundown is Volkswagen in the #2 spot with the Beetle. Now, the Beetle gets a bad rap in history because the rumor is that Hitler designed it. Well, the truth is, old Addy did commission it, but it was designed by Ferdinand Porsche. Since then, over 21 million have been sold, making it the longest running and the most popular single design in the history of automobiles. Now, if that don't make a car significant, I don't know what does.
The Volkswagen Beetle was Europe's Model T. It was the thing that put Europe on wheels. It was very, very easy to drive, very fun to drive, very, very reliable, and very well built.
The Volkswagen Beetle was really the very first demonstration of outstanding German engineering.
What's astounding about it is its longevity and its ability to transform itself from what are the least desirable associations to a counterculture icon, to a design icon. That's an amazing story, and it says a car can transform itself, its impression, its place in society, in a way that you wouldn't think possible.
Now it's time, people. Now we've made it to the #1 most influential car of all time. As we've looked at the number of most significant cars, we've seen a lot of cars that were first in their class, in their design, in their style, but not a lot of firsts can compare to the 1908 Ford Model T. While building the Model T, Ford perfected the assembly line method of production, which is still used to this day. Now try and beat that.
The significance of the Model T can't be underestimated. It's really the alpha of all cars. In 1918, nearly half the cars on the planet were Model Ts, and Henry Ford wanted everybody to replace their horses with the Model T, and that's exactly what happened.
It's the car that changed society. It was a technological stride ahead. It was very light, used advanced steels, it had an early form of automatic transmission. It was just a brilliant design, and it deserves its place in history at the very top.
Its significance in terms of production, its significance in terms of cost, and how that drove volume, and how volume then drove creation of roads to satisfy these owners, that's all more significant than any other vehicle.
There you have it, some of the most significant cars of all time. Leave us a comment in the section below letting us know what your significant cars are. Subscribe to Car and Driver and watch more episodes of Rundown. See you next time.